AI told me it was going to delete my database and I let it. Every little bit of my data gone with a single command. So I'm going to share with you what building a real application with AI taught me as a software engineer. A little bit of context. I built my Yarn Stash, which is a real application with real users, auth, database, billing, everything you can think of. Even the not so glamorous stuff that happens when you try to build the software that is going to last. I built most of it during my winter break in December of last year, and a little bit of it in January. Now, fair warning, AI tooling has evolved a lot since then. And even my usage and my AI workflow is a lot different than what it used to be. So focus on the lessons, not necessarily the tool names, because the lessons that are going to make you a better software engineer. By building this, not only I wanted the final product, of course, I'm also one of the users, but I wanted to answer one question. What actually changes when you use AI as a long-term collaborator across planning, design, building, and even shipping your software? So let's dive in where they help me, where they fail me, or maybe where I failed them, and what I would tell you if you were trying to do the same. So back to the database. I asked the AI agent to make a schema change, and they suggested to remove the file and recreate the file with a new schema, and I said yes to running that command. Back then, I wasn't recording much of my work as I do today. And so I don't have actual footage of the process, but maybe enjoy a little bit of this dramatic reenactment. I know. All of it was gone. All of the test data that I had built and put together to stress test edge cases and hours of manual entries was gone, deleted in one command. Because AI treated my database like a throwaway file. You can just simply delete it and recreate it as you want. But here's the thing. Technically, AI didn't do anything wrong. It did exactly what it made sense if you assume that a database is disposable. And put simply, the problem was me. I hadn't put any guardrails whatsoever, and that is basically the whole lesson for this video. If you don't watch anything else, just keep that in mind. Put guardrails in your AI workflow. In one line, AI amplified my clarity and punished me for ambiguity. So after calming down and recreating my database, I did what any developer should do in the first place. I put down some rules in my Copilot instructions, like never delete a database, do migrations instead of deleting the database and recreating it. Before doing anything destructive, do a backup first, so on and so forth. Ever since then, none of my AI assistants have tried deleting databases anymore. Oof. The AI didn't change its behavior. I changed mine because vague instructions give you unpredictable results. And that has shaped how I work with AI ever since. I got both deliberate on the way that I would give context. I started talking to ChatGPT for specific requests, and for each request, I'll have one specific chat that I would use. Mainly like every feature would have its own thread. Billing would go to one thread, AI extraction would go to another. Launch strategy got its own chat. And even though this is tidy, more or less, it wasn't about being tidy. It was about also context management. When everything that you talk with AI lives in one single chat, I can get a little bit slow, confused, hallucinate, start compacting context windows a lot. And to be honest, that is just a waste of your time and your precious tokens. Having separate chats had a side effect that I was not expecting, which was making AI a better thinking partner. In every single important decision, I would write into a markdown file on my own words, maybe ask AI to verify everything that I written down to make sure it matched what we had agreed or decided on. And that would live right next to the code as a piece of documentation. And that forced me to understand how my application worked and also have a source of reference that I could go back to. And more importantly, AI could go back to as well. Some of my own stash I had very strong opinions about. For example, what language and framework to use as a backend. Some Not so much. Some of it I already knew what I wanted, like Auth0 for auth, Fast API as the backend, minimal JavaScript and CSS. And so those I already decided and told AI about this. But mainly because those weren't up for debate. I wanted those tools to be used precisely. And maybe handing those decisions to AI could have had added noise to the decision making process. For the parts that I had no particular opinion on, or I would say not so many strong opinions on, I had AI help out. For example, what payment gateway should I use and where to deploy? But I also didn't just say, what should I use? Because that's very vague. I gave it all of my constraints. And then the conversation became one of trade offs that I could have as I would with any colleague if you were trying to decide on the architecture of one piece of software together. AI didn't say you should use this, but it helped me think through the decision, understand pros and cons of each one of them, and that helped me come up with something that I felt more confident on. And I already mentioned a few of the AI tools that I was using, but I didn't use the same AI tool for everything. Back then, planning conversations were happening usually with ChatGPT on my phone over coffee and right before I even opened my computer. By the time I actually sat down to do some work, I had already mentally gone through the hard parts. The boring, well-defined tasks went to GitHub Copilot as issues, and then I could focus on what actually needed me. And for the ones that I was actually handling myself, I would switch models intentionally. A lighter one for quick interactions and a heavier one when precision mattered more than speed and money. Thinking back to that database deletion situation, I think it happened because I got comfortable and stopped pushing back or questioning the suggestions from my AI models. So picking a good model for a given task and switching from one model to the other is an important skill to have, even today. But I would say that understanding decisions and applying those constraints matter more because that judgment comes from testing different approaches. There is no documentation if you're building something new, and AI doesn't remove your responsibility. Actually, in my opinion, it makes it matter more. Let's talk about design because I'm not a designer. CSS and JavaScript is something that I dabble in, but they are definitely not my strong suit. I'm a Python person. And on purpose, what I did was build everything functional first. And then I tried to make it pretty once the foundation was solid. So to improve the bare bone design that I had before, I went with Stitch with Google, which is basically a tool that turns descriptions in UI. For the first pass, I just dropped the app URL and say, hey, give me a design. It made it something pretty, don't get me wrong, but it was definitely not what I wanted it to look like. So I went back to my planning partner and I asked it to draw a document for me. I wanted it to put some guidelines in place about tone and color and the vibe that I wanted to convey. Then I went back to Stitch with some screenshots of the app, this branding document, and once again, the specific constraints that I had. And to no surprise, that worked way better. The design felt more like what I wanted. And maybe thinking about it, this is my definition of taste because the tools work better once you define what you want. Even if you don't have the words for it, you can always ask AI to help you with the words. So here's a recap. Things that I'm carrying forward since that day. First and foremost, AI doesn't replace judgment. It actually makes your judgment matter more. Context boundaries, even separating things in different chats, keep your work focused. Knowing which model to work with is a skill that you learn from trying different ones and seeing what works. Design still needs taste, whatever that means for you. And make it pretty is too generic. You'll give you generic answers, but make it cozy and trustworthy with real examples of things you're seeing that you like. We'll give you something that you can actually judge and improve on. Long story short, if you're trying to find your footing with AI, build something real. Step away from the tutorials, the pre-made prompts, and just build something. Something with users, data you can't lose, decisions that pile up over time, and you will end up hitting the boundaries yourself. Those difficulties will teach you more than anything else. If you watched until here, thank you so much. Make sure you like and subscribe and tell me in the comments, what is the most scary thing an AI tool did to your code base? Look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you on the next one.